Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Me, I'm doing good. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Coach TJ. Thank you guys for joining me for this episode. If you guys like the commentary, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications on my videos. If you're on my other platform, please hit the like, subscribe on my other channels so that way you guys can basically, whenever I go on live, you get a notification that I'm on live. I'm a certified recovery life coach. It's all about helping people on their paths, their journeys, and their purpose to a new and better you through self discovery. I help people when it comes to their overall health and wellness, when it comes to recovery, when it comes to grief recovery, when it comes to relationship recovery, when it comes to being people pleasers and Captain Save-A-Hoes and Build-A-Bears and Build-A-Dolls and seat fillers and people that can be glutton for punishment when it comes to addiction, when it comes to abuse, when it comes to your self esteem, self worth, and self values, when it comes to your decision making, when it comes to critical thinking, common sense, and common judgment, morals, values, principles, and ethics, when it comes to the pros and cons, and also when it comes down to the consequences, repercussions, and karma to your action. What I do is we go back through your past and we go through all of these different situations and we figure out how you got into these situations in the first place. And as we go through it, you're looking at it from the old version of yourself. And then by the time we get finished, I'm going to ask you what made you decide to do whatever it was that you did. What would you probably have done differently that you know now that you probably would have done then? And how do you go about in the future and the present not making these same mistakes based upon what you learned? So today we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting because the Heart Association is pretty much saying that basically intermittent fasting can cause heart attacks. Now, I've heard about intermittent fasting for a very, very long time when it comes down to people fasting. And even in the Bible, people fast. So it's not like, fasting is not something that we don't know about because, of course, we do. But at the same time, there are millions of people that are, at the same time, what works for one person may not work for other people. Now, when I heard about this particular thing when it came to the Heart Association, I was kind of shocked because from what I've been told, intermittent fasting, there's a lot of benefits when it comes to intermittent fasting. So to now hear that intermittent fasting can speed up your life expectancy, expectancy and can cause heart attacks. And now it's going to come down to, is it more important to prevent heart attacks or is it more important when it comes to the benefits of intermittent fasting? Now, I have the actual article sitting up here, and I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you the actual article. And then we're also going to go into some other things. So right now I'm putting in the benefits of intermittent fasting. So that way we can talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting and talk about how many hours should we be fasting. So I'm going to try to break this down in a different way. So let me first say there's nothing wrong with fasting. Let me first say that. There's nothing wrong with, you know, fasting for a certain amount of time. But I think what the American Heart Association is saying that anything over 16 hours can be very dangerous. You have a lot of people that in the church that have done fasting and they fast for 30 days. Not a couple days, 30 days of fasting. I think that's what the American Heart Association is pretty much saying. There's nothing wrong with you fasting for 16 hours, maybe 24 hours you may fast and not eat. But I think anything more than 16 hours is going to be kind of dangerous. So, for example, I stopped eating before 6 o'clock. So, let's say from 6 to 6 would be 12 hours. Let's say I don't eat anything or drink anything until lunch, which is 12 o'clock. That's about 16 hours. And there's nothing wrong with fasting for 16 hours and then eating. So, let's say you eat twice a day. Is that really a bad thing? No, because you ate twice a day. You ate in the morning and then you ate at night. And you may fast from, let's say, you get up 5 o'clock in the morning, you have a smoothie, you might have a bagel, you might have some yogurt, and that might be all you eat. And then lunchtime, you may have a big lunch or like a salad or a light lunch. And then you may have dinner before 6 o'clock. And then you may not eat anything else. Some people may have a big breakfast, eat nothing for lunch. They may have something small for lunch. And then dinner, they'll have a light dinner, and that's pretty much it. And then they fast the rest of the night. So, again, is fasting wrong when it comes to 16 hours? I would say no. But I would say anything over 16 hours, I would say would be very dangerous. Anything over 24 hours, I would say would be very dangerous because you're starving yourself. And a lot of churches will do these 30-day fasts, and I don't think it's healthy to fast for 30 days because if your body is not equipped to be able to do that, then I don't recommend you do it. Because I remember last week I fasted for 24 hours. And when it got to that 24-hour mark, trust me, I felt it and I had to eat. So if my body is telling me I need food, I'm going to eat. But the fact that I fast for 24 hours, I'm proud of myself, honestly. But people keep forgetting about anorexia. And I remember a lot of people in the modeling industry and even kids in school suffer from anorexia. And anorexia was when people starve themselves in order to lose weight. That is the worst thing you can do is starve yourself. Now, fasting is not about you starving yourself. That's not what fasting is supposed to be about. Fasting is supposed to be you detoxing and cleansing your body of negative things, okay? It's no different than you do an intermittent fasting mentally where you're not on social media, you're not watching nothing negative, and you're actually, watching things that are more, educational versus watching things that are negative. So, y'all, what I'm going to do is I'm bringing TikTok involved in this as well. And I'm going to let them listen to this. But I just wanted to give y'all the actual introduction of this. So give me 1 second while I pull up my TikTok. So while I'm pulling up my TikTok, I'm also going to talk to y'all about this information because I want to give them this information as well. So I just think it's important that people understand that I get it. I do. We all every time we turn around, we think something is healthy. Come to find out, it ain't. We think something gonna be good for us. Come to find out, it ain't. So if it ain't one thing, it's always another. So every time you think that everything is all good, it ain't. Every time we think we eat something, drink something, and it's healthy, come to find out, it ain't. So it's really crazy how I'm trying. I have to say it for what it is. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I want people to understand that, you know, it's crazy how when it comes down to the things that we do, the things that we say, it's always something. So yeah, I'm gonna bring TikTok involved, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna talk about intermittent fasting, and we're going to see what the pros and the cons are. So you have some people that agree with it and some people that don't. So give me 1 second. Hey y'all on TikTok, how y'all doing? I'm gonna wait for y'all to come in the room and then we're gonna get started. I'm on my other channels doing my stuff for talking about intermittent fasting. So I'm waiting for y'all to come in the room. And while y'all coming in the room, I'm gonna be talking to my other people. So y'all, I get it. A lot of y'all, intermittent fasting has worked for a lot of people. So I'm not saying that when it comes to intermittent fasting that you should automatically quit. Not saying that at all. But what I am saying about intermittent fasting is we need to do a little bit more research. Hey, y'all, come in the room. We're talking about the American Heart Association saying that intermittent fasting is bad for the heart and that intermittent fasting is causing heart attacks. So basically, what's going on is the Heart Association posted an article about intermittent fasting being dangerous to the heart and how intermittent fasting basically is speeding up the longevity of our lives. Okay. So I'm going to pull up some videos and some information that the Heart Association has written about this situation. And we're going to talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting. We're going to figure out how to go about being able to do intermittent fasting. How many hours, in fact, should we do intermittent fasting? So that way we're not affecting our heart, but at the same time, getting the benefits of intermittent fasting. So I'm going to share my screen for those of y'all on other channels. And we're going to talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting. We're going to start there first and then go from there. So bear with me. Okay, make sure y'all can see it and make sure y'all can hear me. So let me pull this in here. All right, let me first go into this. It says intermittent fasting improves blood pressure, raises heart rate, as well as other heart-related measurements, physical performance. Young men who fast for 16 hours show weight loss or fat loss while maintaining muscle mass. Mice who were fed on an alternate day show better endurance in running. Now, I need people to understand. Hi, thank you. But anything past 16 hours may be considered dangerous. Let me explain why. In the church, and I'll use Transformation Church for example, they do 30-day fasting where you don't eat for 30 days. Can that be dangerous? It could be. Now, you fasting for 16 hours, meaning that from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, you don't eat nothing. Would that really bother you? No. If you don't eat till 12 o'clock in the afternoon, will that really bother you? No, it won't. But for some people, they can't do 2 or 3 days of fasting because they may end up being lightheaded. They may end up being in a situation where they start having a heart attack. But there are some people that can. They can actually do intermittent fasting for, a good 2 or 3 days. So let's get into it. Is it okay to fast 16 hours every day? It says studies have found that people who regularly fast for more than 16 to 18 hours a day have a higher risk of gallstones. They may also more likely to need surgery to remove the gallbladder. Eating for 12 hours and then fasting for 12 hours is likely safe for most people. So, now 16 hours, I would say, and the only reason why 16 hours can be a thing, because if you're fasting from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, that would be 12 hours. Now, if you get up and you get a smoothie or you make a protein shake, that won't be too bad, because you're still not eating, but you're putting something in your system that will help when it comes to fasting. Now, let's say in the morning you work out, right? And let's say you have a protein shake, right? A protein shake is going in your system and it is replenishing your body. Now, it used to be, when it came to fasting, was from 9 to 6 in the morning. So when you didn't eat enough from 9 to 6 in the morning, your body is cleansing itself and you're supposed to be in the morning detoxing. So that's how that works. How are you? Really? Okay. My grandmother's been gone longer than 10 years. Anyway, so when it comes to fasting, I recommend people doing 30-day fasting? No. I really don't. I don't recommend nobody doing 30-day fasting, because your body may not be able to handle that type of fasting. So let's see what else they say. Why is fasting so effective? It says the idea behind intermittent fasting is by restricting food in our bodies will more quickly and effectively tap our fat stores for energy. While glucose from carbohydrates is our most direct fuel source, we burn fat for energy when glucose isn't available. This happens even during times of food deprivation. But let me tell you what it sounds like. Okay. Now, yeah, water fasting is not. Yeah, you gotta eat. So let me say it like this here. Now, do y'all remember all the models that had anorexia and bulimia? People need to understand. People forget about anorexia and bulimia and how dangerous it was. And yeah, you do lose a lot of weight when you starve yourself, but that's not healthy. It is not healthy to starve yourself, because what happens is it will affect your heart. So I think what the Heart Association is trying to say, there's nothing wrong with fasting for 12 to 16 hours a day. The problem is that you have to figure out how to go about when it comes to eating. A lot of y'all are stuck on calories, 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 calories. Calories are not your problem. I need everybody to understand this. For every 1 pound is 3,500 calories. So let me first start there. 1 pound is 3,500 calories. So for those of y'all who wonder when you go to the gym why you not losing thousands upon thousands of pounds, because for 1 calorie is 3,500 calories. So let's say you go to the gym, you work out 3,500 calories. Well, you're gonna have to stay underneath 3,500 calories. The average amount that you want to eat per day, if you can get down to 1,000 calories a day, if you can get down to 2,000 calories per week, 2,500 calories a week, you'll be good. And even if you can't, you can at least do 1,500 calories a day and you'll be good. Because as long as you are staying between, I would say, 2,500 calories a week, you'll be fine. But that's kind of hard to do, because y'all are looking at the calories. But yes, for every 1 pound is 3,500 calories. So if you can stay underneath that, some people, they'll eat 1,000 calories a day. That's it, 1,000 calories a day. Some people try to eat like 550 calories a day. So if you can stay within that 2,000 calories, you should be good. Because realistically, It depends on what type of calories you're eating. Are you eating healthy carbs or are you eating carbs that are unhealthy? So you can have, chicken that has 35%, 39% protein and 20 some percent carbohydrates. So you're getting a lot of carbs because protein has a lot of carbs, and it does. So when you eat a lot of protein, yeah, you're going to have to work that off because it has a lot of carbs. So what you're looking at is not the calories, you're looking at carbs. You're looking at glucose. That's what you're looking at because carbs turn into glucose. Calories don't mean anything. You also got to look at the ingredients of the foods that you're eating. So yeah, if you eat twice a day, let's say you have a smoothie in the morning, you may have a bagel, you might even have some yogurt. That's not that bad. In the afternoon, you might have brunch where you may have eggs, you might have turkey bacon, you may have grits, and that's your brunch. And then dinner, you might have a salad, you might have soup and salad, and eating. And that's okay. But you're still staying within less than 3,500 calories. So you have to find foods. When you look at it, it depends on if you cook. Cooking versus going to a restaurant is completely different. So before I get into this, let's continue some more information and we're going to go into calories in a minute. What happens when your body intermittently fasting? If you don't eat for 10 to 16 hours, your body will go from fat storage for energy and fatty acids called ketones will be released into the bloodstream. So, if you don't eat for 10 to 6 hours, 16 hours, it will go into fat storage for energy, and the fatty acids called ketones will be released into the bloodstream. Now, that's a bad thing, and I'm going to explain why. That's how you end up sick. So if all those fatty acids get into your system, then that means that basically your kidneys, your liver, and all of that's going to be clogged up. So it says this has been shown to protect memory and learning functions, says Madison, as well as slow disease process in the brain. Now, will it help the brain? Yeah. But will it affect your kidneys and your liver and your heart and your tissues and your cells and your blood? Probably so. So even though it may help one area, it doesn't mean it's going to help everything else. Now it also says, how long does it take to see benefits of intermittent fasting? Between 2 to 4 weeks. That's how long it takes for your body to switch from using glucose for energy to using fat for energy. So if you're burning fat, then yeah, it can be a good thing. But if you ain't doing it, then I would suggest it. Additionally, it will take your body a while to get used to this new eating schedule. So do not expect results right away. You need to wait between 2 to 4 weeks or to feel any results. So you're not going to see or feel any results for 2 to 4 weeks. So again, if you eat twice a day, and let's say you eat heavier during lunch, and you'll have, I always tell people, I think it's better to have a heavy lunch and a light dinner. And that's just being honest because when you eat heavy in the evening time, that means you're going to have a lot on your stomach. And I don't recommend laying down right after you eat. I recommend you wait 30 minutes to an hour before you eat, before you lay down. So let's see. Why is 16 hours the magic number for fasting? Both 12 and 16-hour fastings can promote burning. It's possible that 16 hours of fasting may become more effective because the longer the fasting period may lead to a greater deplete of glucose stored, which can trigger high levels of fat burning. So, can you get up in the morning and drink coffee? Let's see what they say about coffee. If you're fasting for weight loss or metabolic health, then coffee or even coffee with non insurgenics, in other words, milk and all that stuff, additional like butter, coconut oil, heavy cream should not break your fast. Even milk flavored creamers, sugars, and other sweeteners may break your fast no matter your goal. So, if you have coffee, then it can, it may not. So, if you're using butter and you're using coconut oil or heavy cream, it's not going to affect it. But if you're using milk, flavor creamers, sugar, or any other sweeteners, then yeah, it's going to break it. But if you drink coffee with nothing in it, then it shouldn't. So it says, does intermittent fasting reduce belly fat? And yeah, it says intermittent fasting is a convenient way to lose weight without counting calories. So it can help you lose weight and belly fat. So I need y'all to stop worrying about calories. Calories don't make a difference here. What matters is what it is you're consuming. So if now that I know now, then I probably would not drink coffee until later. So in other words, if I'm gonna have Starbucks, it'll probably be like 12 o'clock. So, and I don't drink black coffee. I don't even like black coffee. I gotta have something in it. But it's better to just have heavy cream than put sugar or any type of creamers. So now even I know now that if I'm gonna do intermittent fasting, then I need to make sure if I'm gonna have coffee with cream in it, like the one. But see, here's the thing: you can get the sugar-free creamers. You'll be good. Sugar-free creamers won't affect your diet because sugar-free creamers have no sugar, so it shouldn't affect you in any way. So you can have creamers, just the one with no sugar in it. So you can, and also you can get the coffee like the chocolate mochas, the caramel, the what is it? Caramel coffee, the lattes, mochas. Those you can drink, and they shouldn't affect you. It shouldn't affect you honestly. Cause some if you get the pods, I'm not talking about going to Starbucks or Dairy Queen, was it Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kremes? No, you can get the pods that from Walmart. They're not that sweet, and you can drink those because those won't mess up your fasting. But if you but here's the thing, but if you fast from 6 in the evening to 12, then yeah, you can have your coffee. Cause me, I fast from 6 in the evening to 12. Or if I don't stop eating until 9 o'clock, I don't eat until after 9 o'clock. It depends on when I stop eating. But it's never good to eat late night anyway. So they said, is it bad to intermittent fast every day? It says intermittent fasting can be dangerous if it's taken too far. A technique called dry fasting restricts food and fluid intakes, resulting in severe dehydration and posing serious health concerns. Malnutrition can occur if the calorie restrictions is too severe, such as averaging fewer than 1,200 calories a day long term. So again, you can't do it. That's why I said if you eat about 1,500 calories a day, you'll be good. So again, you can eat 1,000 calories and be good. So as long as you staying within that 1,200 calories a day, you should be good. But can you from 6 at night to 6 in the morning not eat nothing and it don't bother you? No, because you'll be asleep. So no, if you stop eating at 6 because you already ate, let's say I ate at 4. Do I really want to eat anything at 6? No. Now, will I drink something before I go to bed? Probably so. I can drink a tea before I go to bed. And I always do my probiotics at night and prebiotics in the morning. So you can get probiotics at night, your prebiotic tea in the morning. So you can get both. I recommend getting pre and probiotics because that way when you take it before you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, you're gonna be going to the bathroom just like today. I've been in the bathroom all day because I've been taking my tea either in the morning or I take it at night. And when I tell you that prebiotic gonna have you going to the bathroom, it's gonna have you going to the bathroom. So you don't want to be when you're anorexic. I'll say it like that. But can you do intermittent fasting from 6 in the evening, excuse me, to 6 in the morning? Yeah, because about 9 o'clock you be most people are asleep by 9. So if you sleep at 9, and let's say you decide to get some tea and drink it before you go to bed, you still be good. As long as let's say you might be hungry about after 6, and you may say, you know what, I want some. Can you have something before you go to bed? Yeah, as long as before 9 o'clock, because between 10 and 6, your body is basically digesting everything and cleansing everything. So yeah, can you have something like some strawberries, some fruit? Yeah, before you go to bed. Yeah, absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with you eating something to snack on, or you can go get a yogurt, or you can go get some toast. Whatever you can, long as something light. As long as it is something light, you'll be good as far as intermittent fasting. It's just you may have to eat twice. So, like for example, you might wake up in the morning and drink a protein shake. Go work out. You might get done. You might get a bagel, and you might after 6 o'clock you might go get a bagel, and you might get some applesauce, or you might just eat applesauce, or you might just eat yogurt. You ate something. Nobody said that you had to eat something heavy. You just have to eat. You have to eat. So if you wake up in the morning, like I get up around 8. So if I go to bed at 9 and I stop eating at 4. I might decide, because if I stop eating at 4, I might say, you know what, let me go in there and let me get something healthy to eat before I go to bed. And I might eat some about maybe now. I might say, okay, some blueberries might be good. Or I might make a smoothie. I might say, you know what? Let me go in there, pull a smoothie out, make a smoothie. Okay, I can do that too. You can do a smoothie before you go to bed. As long as you eat or drink something, you should be fine. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to eat something. All you gotta do is make a smoothie, and you'll be good. If you want to make a milkshake, you want to take some sherbet, make something out of it. By all means, you can. But like I said, it is about energy. Because what happens when you don't eat for 24 hours, your eye is going to start to twitch. Your body is going to start to feel lightheaded. And some people were like, well, you just get, no, that ain't good. That means you're going to pass out. Sorry, I can't do that. So, no, you want to make sure that you are eating something after them 12 to 16 hours. You need to eat something or drink something. And I'm not talking about water. You can go right in there and get you, like I said, a protein shake and drink it before you go to bed. So you can do one in the morning and one at night. Or you can go get the actual, like, for example, I have water, and they have these little pouches that have like electrolytes. You can drink one of them. You can get a yogurt before you go to bed and eat that, as long as you eat something before you go to bed. So if I stop eating at 4 and I say, oh, you know what? Let me eat something before I go to bed, because that way I'm not starving myself. So okay. But that was still, even if I stop eating at 4 in the morning, it's still gonna be 12 hours. Well, no, that'd be, yeah, that would be 12 hours. So if I stop eating at 4 and then I get up at 8, that's still what, 16 hours? So yeah, I get up and eat something. So it's okay if you stop eating between 4 and 6. Because if you get up at 8, or even if you get up 5 o'clock in the morning and you get a protein shake, you still have put something in your system. It doesn't necessarily have to be food. It can be something to drink. Again, you can get a bagel, you can get some yogurt or applesauce or fruit cottontails or fruit. You ain't got to eat pizza and cookies and all this other stuff. You ain't got to do half of that. So let's see what they say about what's the golden rule and then what's the best foods to eat. The golden rule for fasting is beware of food labeled 0 calories. As much as most will have trace amounts of calories that can break your fast if you eat enough. Drink a lot of water, add fiber source to your meal with your meal, or use supplements to help your hunger craving. Yeah, supplements will help too. So for example, if you have gummies, you eat them. They sweet. You need gummies. That's why I buy gummies. So if I am fasting, I have gummies that I can eat. And they say the best foods to eat when it comes to intermittent fasting would be smoothies, dry fruit, soup, vegetables, feminine foods, don't know what that is, and healthy fats. So as long as you eating those, you should be fine. So you don't have to necessarily. And then also you have like lemon water is also good for you. And it won't break your fast. And it also will cleanse out your stomach. So lemon water is also good for you. You can drink that before you go to bed as well. And you can drink that in the morning. As long as you drink like once a day, you should be good. So intermittent fasting does have its benefits. But let's go to the actual America Association, Heart Association. Let's go to that and see what they say about this new article that they have put out. Now, this is what it says. A study over 20,000 adults found that those who followed an 8-hour time restrictive eating schedule, a type of intermittent fasting, had 91% higher risk of deaths from cardiovascular disease. Now, is intermittent fasting hard on your heart? The Daily Mail has used statistics from the press release and suggests that intermittent fasting directly causes a raised risk, with its headline, fasting for 16 hours or more per day raises the risk of dying from heart problems by almost double. Now, I have the actual article in front of me, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to actually show y'all before we get into these videos about this. So give me a second. Now, this is the actual article. It says time restricted eating may raise cardiovascular disease in the long term. So it don't do it immediately, it's over time. It says a popular weight loss strategy that limits the hours during which calories can be consumed may nearly double a person's long-term risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. New research finds, especially among people with underlying cardiovascular disease or cancer, mind you, cardiovascular disease or cancer. So if you have cancer or cardiovascular disease, you should not be fasting no more than 16 hours. And that means when you go to bed. That's why I recommend if you're gonna fast when you go to bed. That way, that won't be a problem. But the question remains about just how time restricted eating, which limits calorie consumption to part of the day, affects heart disease and stroke risk. Prior studies have suggested that the eating pattern may lower cardiovascular risk factors in the short term. See, short term, not long term, short term. While this new research is compelling, the reason why participants choose this style of eating were unknown, says Dr. Kim McCallum, a primary care doctor at Beth Israel DeCombs Medical Center, as a a professional medical. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I've been working all day. A professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School in Boston. I cannot pronounce it. Man, I ain't gonna try. Was not involved in this study, which was present Monday at the American Heart Association Ecology Prevention Lifestyle Cardiometabolic Health Conference in Chicago. This was a reasonable effect to look at long-term effects of time-restricted eating, he said. At first glance, it does not suggest that it's likely to be of cardiovascular benefits, and ideal it was harmful. But there could be health reasons to eat in a time restricted manner that will make it appear harmful when it's not. This is what I'm reading. It says he said it was too soon to conclude that people should avoid time restricted eating if it helps them meet their weight loss gain goals. At this point, if people want to eat a shorter duration and it's easier for them to maintain their weight that way, I would not use this as a reason to not do it. A time restricting eating is a type of intermittent fasting, typically restricts calories intake to a window of 4 to 12 hours. Okay. So you can fast from 4 to 12 hours. Okay, got it. Prior research shows it may be effective weight loss strategy, especially when combined with calorie restrictions. Studies have suggested that it lowers blood pressure and other key indications of cardiovascular disease over a short period of time in people with obesity. In new studies, researchers have analyzed dietary data from the national survey of 20,078 U.S. adults who were 49 years of age on average. On 2 occasions, they recall all food and drink were consumed within a 24-hour period. The people who restricted their eating to a period of less than 8 hours a day were nearly twice likely to die of cardiovascular disease, which included heart disease and stroke. Now, I can believe that. Which the Meridian found that the median follow-up of 8 years compared to those who ate meals over 12 hours to 16-hour periods. 8-hour eating window was associated with higher cardiovascular mortality in the general population, as well as those who had pre-existing cardiovascular disease or cancer. Time restricting eating did not appear to affect the risk of dying from all causes combined or specifically from cancer. But in people with cancer, now mind you, listen to what it's saying, but people with cancer eating more than 16 hours a day was associated with low risk of dying from cancer. So if you don't have cancer, this ain't going to affect you. I think people misinterpret it. It will affect you if you have heart disease or if you have lung disease, kidney disease, any type of pre-consisting conditions that basically gonna mess you up. Basically, it says the findings are preliminary units. Full results are published in the peer-reviewed journal. So this study is not finished. It says the lead researcher, Dr. Victor Wenzong, a professional and chair of the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at Shanghai Jiao Tong University School of Public Health in China, said the findings surprised his team. Restricted daily eating times to a shorter period, such as 8 hours, has gained popularity recently because it seemingly helps people lose weight and improve their metabolic health, Zong says. Thus, we have expected that long-term adoption of 8 hours time restricted eating would be associated with low risk of cardiovascular death and even all-cause death. We're surprised to the finding that that wasn't the case. But Mook, I cannot pronounce his name, said many factors remain unaccounted for. So in other words, this ain't finished. So what I'm thinking is, I think this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's not when you fast. I don't think it's the fact of intermittent fasting. I think it's when you're fasting. I think, honestly, truthfully speaking, if you're going to do 16 hours to 12 hours should be before you go to bed. I don't think you should fast during the day. I just don't think you should. I think the best time to fast will be at night. And I'm going to tell you why 6 o'clock is so important. You're starting your body early when it comes to cleansing your system. So let me break down some, a lot of y'all don't know. Cleansing your system is very important. The best time to cleanse your system is at night, not during the day. If you take a laxative at night, I promise you in the morning, if you don't eat nothing, you're going straight to that bathroom and you're going to be in that bathroom all day long. Now, mind you, this is what people go wrong when it comes to laxatives. They will turn their butt right back around, and as soon as they cleanse their system, they'll go ahead and start eating. Don't do that. So when you're talking about intermittent fasting, it could be like if you take a gut tea or you do a cleanse or a detox, you don't need to eat nothing while you're going through it. Now, I'm not saying you can't eat soup. I'm not saying you can't have chicken broth. I'm not saying that you can't have applesauce or anything like that. But any milk products, any like food, you don't need to be eating. Now, can you eat bread? Bread is pretty much, if you eat like a bagel, it's not gonna kill you. But if you eat like mashed potatoes, if you eat like any type of soft food while you going through a detox, it will be okay because it still will flush through your system. Anything that cannot be digested, please don't eat while you're going through a cleanse because you're going to mess yourself all the way up. Now, for those of y'all who ain't never had a colonoscopy, I'm about to break it down for you. A colonoscopy, you have to take 4 big old blocks of laxatives, and each one is different, and you have to take them throughout the day until after 10 o'clock. You can't eat after 10 at all. Nothing. Can't eat nothing. So you're going to be fasting because from 10 to whatever time your appointment is, you can't eat. That's why most time when they do the colonoscopies, it's in the morning. So that way you won't eat nothing. I don't even know what time mine is. I have a colonoscopy on the 18th. So I got to go through all of that. So when you take these, when I tell you it's going to cleanse every single solitary thing out your system, including pesticides. This laxative is so strong, it's going to cleanse. It's going to be as if nothing is there. You just going to be going to the bathroom and nothing's coming out. That's how much this thing cleans out your system. Boy, you're going to see so much godforsaken poop. You're going to be like, wait a minute. I just went to the bathroom. Yeah, it's going to cleanse all the stuff that you didn't cleanse. So you can't eat between 10 and whatever time your appointment is. That's why they try to get you in the morning, because you can't eat nothing. Nothing. Can't eat or drink nothing. So that's the same thing. So they go in there and they check your stomach. If you have a hernia, they'll go ahead and do what they need to do, and they'll fix whatever need to be fixed. That's what they do. Same thing when you have a thing that go down your throat. I have both of these being done on the 18th. Both of them. And I'll be asleep when they are doing both of them. It's not going to be fun. I'll be asleep. I'll be knocked out. So, yeah, I'm a little nervous because I'm getting two procedures at the same time. But they say they can do them both. So, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm trusting the doctors that I'm going to make it through that. But I have to have both of them done. But again, the best time to do your fasting is at night. That's the best time to do it, because that way you're not eating anything. When you go to bed, you're not having not ate nothing, and you're going to bed. And so you can do the 16 hours every day because you ain't eat nothing. So when you wake up and you have them that 12 hours, you can say, okay, let me go do a protein shake. Let me do my vitamins. So supplements do help, and you can take some that where you won't eat nothing. So let's say you go to bed at 9, you wake up at 9, you may not eat nothing until 12, and that's okay. You have your first meal of the day at 12 o'clock because you may not be hungry. So at 12 o'clock, you may have, you may go and get you a salad. You may go to IHOP and get you an omelet. You can do that. But in the evening, I always recommend eat lighter in the evening than in the afternoon and the morning. The best thing to do if you're gonna do that, I would recommend have either a big breakfast or a big lunch. I would not have a big dinner. I think that's where everybody messing up at. Don't have a big dinner. So all the lasagna and all of that, you don't need to eat that in the evening, because I'm telling you, it's gonna mess you up. I don't recommend it. I'm doing that myself. Now, unless you go and you get wheat noodles versus white noodles, or you get the chickpea noodles or the lentil noodles, okay, go ahead. But if you're going to eat lasagna, I would recommend either cooking it the day before, in other words, pre-prepping and meal prepping everything, and that way you can have a little bit. But like I said, I would recommend, if you're going to make lasagna or spaghetti, I would do it early. I make my dinner early. That way, all you got to do is warm it up, go ahead and eat it, and don't eat it based upon portion control. Then you should be good. But if you eat lasagna like about 8, 9 o'clock, you're going to be pretty miserable. And that's why a lot of people can't lose weight, because they eat in the evening time. The best thing to do, like I said, I ate earlier. I'm not hungry right now. If I eat anything, I probably will get me some yogurt before I go to bed, but that'll be it. Really, I only eat twice a day. I only eat twice a day. Now, every once in a while, I may, because my sugar might be low, I might get, like, I went and got me some Oreos because I was like, my sugar was low. So I was saying, let me go get something. So I got these little Oreo things from this carnival place. They sell carnival food. So I went and got me a funnel cake and the fried Oreos. They were so good. But yeah, that's what I ate, and I'm full. But when I tell you today, my stomach, I don't even think there's anything else in my stomach at this point. But this article pretty much just breaks down the fact that this particular survey is not finished and it needs to be completed. So my suggestion is, if you're going to do intermittent fasting, do it before you go to bed. So if you're going to do intermittent fasting, don't do it during the day. Do it at night, because that way you're asleep. So if you're someone like myself that don't go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, yeah, you intermittent fasting gonna be great for you, because you're going to bed early. So for those of y'all who go to bed like about 8 o'clock, your intermittent fasting will work for you, because most people will sleep from 8 to 8, and they'll get up, and that's 12 hours. That's your intermittent fasting right there. I do not recommend anybody doing intermittent fasting in the morning. I just don't. I don't recommend it at all. So I'm gonna close this out, and I'm gonna go into some of these videos of them talking about intermittent fasting. So the first one that I'm gonna go into, let me share my screen first before I get into it. Hold on, I gotta find it. I know which one I'm gonna look at first. I just looked at it. So I'm gonna let y'all on TikTok actually listen to it, and then I'm gonna let the everybody else see it. So this one is intermittent fasting bad for your heart? And this is CBS News. Now, disclaimer. I am using these videos for information purposes only to basically determine my judgment when it comes to this topic. I am using this information for research purposes only to get more information about what American Heart Association has said about intermittent fasting causing heart attacks. That's my disclaimer. All right, let's get into it. Make sure y'all can see. No, you can't. Hold on a minute. Let me move y'all for a second. I gotta move y'all. Oops. No wonder. Why did I just do that? I forgot that ain't it. Okay, so y'all can see it. Okay, hold on. So now I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna take myself out, and then I'm gonna come back when it's over with, and I'm gonna let y'all hear what they said. So y'all on TikTok, y'all still can hear me. So I'll be right back in 1 second.
Well, in an effort to maintain a healthy weight, many have turned to intermittent fasting. It involves restricting eating to a limited number of hours each day. But a new study suggests the practice might have some unintended consequences. It found that those who limited their eating across less than 8 hours per day were 91% more likely to die from cardiovascular disease than those who ate across 12 to 16 hours per day. The research analyzed over 20,000 U.S. adults and was presented to the American Heart Association by scientists at a medical school in China. Let's bring in Canada Tonight medical contributor Dr. Samir Gupta to discuss this study a little bit more. So, Dr. Gupta, good to see you. Intermittent fasting, it is very popular. What is this exactly?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's gained a lot of popularity, and we're really talking about a regimen where, for periods of time, you completely or nearly completely restrict your calorie consumption. And there's different ways of doing it. Some people will do alternate day fasting, so feast days, famine days. Some people do what's called 5-2, so you eat for 5 days, you fast for two. But the more common way of doing it is daily time restricted feeding. Well, you'll restrict your calorie consumption to a certain number of hours in the day. Like in this study, what they're studying is this idea where you eat in 8 hours and you fast for the other 16 hours.
Okay, so this is one study here, but are there any additional studies that have been done before showing benefits or harms?
Yeah, really important, Travis. There's a really robust body of literature around this. It's been very well studied. We sort of have a cultural thing here around 3 meals a day and snacks, but a lot of Eastern cultures have fasting. It's very common, and the argument that's made is that even from an evolutionary point of view, hundreds of thousands of years ago when we were cavemen, it was feast or famine. You have a kill, you eat for several days, and then you fast for several days, and so our metabolism in our body is adapted to that. And studies show that, yes, when you fast, good things happen. At least short and medium term studies show that when you switch, when you're fasting, you switch from sugars to ketones as your main source of energy, and that switch results in better sugar metabolism, it results in less stress hormones, lower signs of inflammation. We actually have studies in people who have diabetes and people who don't that show that when you do this, you actually improve your sugar levels, you improve cholesterol in some studies, blood pressure, your obesity. If people who have obesity, that improves. So a whole bunch of things that should correlate to better cardiovascular outcomes get better in these short to medium term studies.
Okay, so there's that. So how does that all fit with this study's findings?
Yeah, I think that's why we're talking about this, Travis. It's made a splash because it's the opposite of what largely you will see in literature. And it really is saying that your risk of a cardiovascular event is pretty much double if you report using this diet. And so this is why it's so shocking and surprising.
So what are some of the pitfalls of this study in your opinion?
Yeah, lots of pitfalls. The studies I mentioned earlier, those are randomized controlled trials. So you randomize people to this diet or another sort of normal eating pattern diet, usually with the same number of calories over the day, and you show these benefits. But what you don't know in those studies is, does that translate to less heart attacks and strokes over time? And that's hard to do in a randomized trial because you'd have to keep these people on the diet potentially for years. So the way to answer that question is just observationally to say, well, people who do this for years and years, do they do better? Do they have less heart attacks, et cetera? And that's what they tried to do in this study. It's a survey study, like you mentioned. And so periodically they would ask people about their eating habits, and then they would ask them what kinds of cardiovascular events and other events occurred. Lots of pitfalls there. You're trying to remember your eating habit.
Mhm.
You're only reporting a few days out of each year. You're not necessarily doing this for months or years in a sustained way. It could be that the people who were intermittently fasting were doing it because they had cardiovascular risk factors like diabetes or overweight or cholesterol. So it could have nothing to do with the fasting itself. We really don't know until we see the full report, and it's unclear if they collected this information.
Okay, so a little birdie told me that you, doctor, are doing intermittent fasting yourself. Are you reconsidering it now after this study?
I've been doing it for a long time, Travis, and for me, it was a decision I made after really trying to understand what that literature shows. This is one study. We have a very robust literature that suggests that the mechanism for improved cardiovascular health in particular, and other aspects of health, is there. It's strong. I have to say this gives me pause. I'm going to want to see the full study, but comparing those studies and that body of literature to one study, for me, this is not enough to make a change, but it's enough to say, hey, we want more studies like this. There are things we don't understand and things we don't know. It's possible that short and medium term things improve, but there are things we don't know that cause harm long term. So we're going to want to see more research. But for now, I'm sticking with my regimen.
There you go. Okay. Doctor, appreciate it. As always, that is Canada Tonight medical contributor, Dr. Samir Gupta.
I'm sorry, y'all. I keep forgetting that it's me. All right. I'm gonna repeat what I just said to TikTok. Okay. It's not about the fact that you're intermittent fasting. I don't think that's what the issue is. I think what the issue is the fact that when you're doing it, what you're eating, a lot of people are still eating cookies and cakes, and then you're intermittent fasting. That ain't gonna work. Now, intermittent fasting is not easy, especially when you're doing it every day, meaning at night from 10 to 6, 6 to 6. It don't matter. The point is, between 10 and 6, your body is cleansing out your system. Now, if you take a gut tea before you go to bed, which I'm about to do in a minute, I took one early today, but I have another one that's a probiotic. So I have one that's a probiotic, and I have one that's a probiotic. But if you do a detox at night, don't do it during the day, do it at night. Don't eat nothing and go to bed. Drinks and put some lemon in. I promise you, you're gonna be cleansing out your godforsaken system all day. If you do a cleanse or an enema, you're gonna be in that bathroom all day long. But understand, when you do these cleanses, don't go and eat pork chops and steak and fatty foods. Don't do that. Because if you do that, everything you did was for nothing. I recommend vegetables. I recommend fruit when you do your cleanse. I do not recommend none of that. I recommend a liquid diet. I recommend like broth. I recommend like soup. I recommend stuff like that. I don't recommend anything that cannot be digested in your system, because that cleanse or that detox or that laxative or whatever you take is going to help you to go to the bathroom. Then I don't recommend you eating cheese and milk, and I don't recommend it. So don't do that when you are doing your intermittent fasting or when you're cleansing yourself. I recommend that every once a month you do and you can start off once a week. Just do one detox tea, cleanse out everything. Parasites every 3 months. Every 3 months you can do it. You can do a parasite cleanse every 3 months. Black seed oil you can only do for 12 weeks. I think castor oil you can use it, but I think black seed oil is 12 weeks. You have different types of herbs and different type of plants that help with your kidneys and your lungs and your liver and all of that. They even have some for your heart. So they do have different stuff that Amazon and all of them carry. Most of the vitamin stores, they carry it. So you can find stuff that's healthy for you. But when you doing these cleanses, I don't recommend you eat anything heavy. I just don't. Mashed potatoes, applesauce. Uh, I wouldn't recommend fruit cocktail because it got sugar. But you can eat like strawberries, blueberries, mangoes. You can do smoothies. So you can take like spinach and take some strawberries and mangoes and just make smoothies during that time. And then the day after, don't do it either. Don't eat nothing. So all you need to do is get you some fresh fruit and some fresh vegetables and juice. That's when you need the juice around that time. That way you're cleansing your body. And then the rest of the week, just eat healthy foods. And you can eat meat, but don't eat fatty meat. I don't recommend eating fatty meat when you're doing it either. So that's why I eat chicken and turkey. That's why I eat no skin on my chicken, no skin on my turkey. None of that. So the second video I'm going to show you is another news article about news video about this as well. So give me a minute to share my screen. Why did I do that? Give me a second. I gotta come out of this. I didn't mean to do that. Always I know I can do that. Good to know. I'm glad to know I can do that. I find so much stuff out. All right, so I'm going to take myself out, share my screen, and get started.
Time for Health Watch, and we are talking intermittent fasting. That's when you restrict eating to 8 hours or less a day.
It's supposed to help with weight loss and regulation of blood sugar, and including clarity of mind. There's a lot of factors that go into what the benefits are. But could there be a downside to the trend? That's what people are asking. So Dr. Sean Heffron is joining us now. He is a preventative cardiologist at NYU Langone Heart. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So there's some new research circulating online. It's got a catchy title, but it hasn't been peer-reviewed. It's about intermittent fasting and heart health. Explain what the study claims to have uncovered.
So they looked at people who had responded to the NHANES survey over a period of about 15 or so years, and responded to the survey specifically about the duration of time that they spent throughout the day eating. And then they looked at those individuals that they could link to a death index, which is a record of people who had passed away over the follow-up period of the study, and then look for an association between the time in which the people reported eating and whether they had died or not from any cause, or then from heart disease, cardiovascular mortality, or from cancer.
So then we get these really sort of splashy head-turning headlines, right? 91% increased risk of cardiovascular death if you participate in intermittent fasting. But as you point out, this is this is very limited. These were not people that were intermittent fasting per se. These were people who self-reported how they ate throughout the day. So can you, because my issue with this, because I was ranting earlier today, is that sometimes us people in the news, we don't do a very good job when it comes to reporting on science. We sort of go with that splashy headline, but the details really count here. So can you explain what's your take on the findings? What's missing from this? Because we haven't even seen all of the data. I think the only thing that was released was like an abstract.
Correct. I echo exactly what you said. It's honestly very unfortunate, in my opinion, that this was released as a press release. The findings are incredibly preliminary. As you raised, these people were not in a trial studying intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. It was their responses to a question, one of many, many dozens of questions about lifestyle. And then as part of an observational study, the authors looked for associations. Now, we get a lot of information from observational studies in medicine, because there are a lot of things that are very difficult to study in the most controlled fashion, which is the gold standard in medicine, a randomized trial. But when you do an observational study, you have to control for confounding variables, and which are other things that could be going on in these individuals' lives, other characteristics that could potentially influence the outcome. And when you look at what this is, of just a basic abstract, not peer-reviewed, not published, you can see that those people who were in the group that had restricted their eating period, there are more smokers in that group. There are more men. There are differences in the racial makeup of that group. All sorts of factors that could certainly play a role in the outcomes. And because this wasn't a trial, people are just restricting their eating. They could have other diseases or other conditions, other socioeconomic factors that could have led them to restricting the time in which they ate. So really, nothing that of any clinical relevance can be derived from these findings.
All right.
It's an important detail.
Yes.
Really quickly, though, then, doctor, explain how intermittent fasting works and what the benefits actually are.
What do we know about intermittent fasting?
So we know certainly that in trials or preclinical studies of animals, there is an increase in longevity. That is well established. In relatively short-term studies of humans, because it's not very easy to keep going for a very long time, that there do tend to be improvements in blood glucose, in blood pressure, other cardiovascular disease risk factors, measures that are associated with potential risk of cancer.
Doctor, we only
radicals.
We only have a minute.
There is some data.
We just have a minute, but I want to make, this study hasn't been done on humans. It's just animals.
Well, he said there's some limited human studies. The problem with nutrition and diet is that unless you keep people kind of in a pod and they only eat what you give them over a long period of time, it's really hard to do these studies. But I think the bottom line, as you know, doctor, a lot of people do this to maintain or keep their weight. Is it okay to still intermittent fast?
If someone is open to it and wants to try it, I would not discourage them from it. That being said, how well it can be maintained is questionable, and I counsel patients to adhere to an overall lifestyle of health, which is sustainable for decades.
That's good advice.
Right. Whatever you can keep up.
That's right.
Now, what I will say about this, like she said, it's not about what you obtain, it's about what you maintain when it comes to your weight. Okay? Intermittent fasting is good, but a lot of people, I think, where the heart disease and all of that is coming into, is the fact when you're exercising, honey, you cannot exercise and not have something in your stomach. You got it. I always tell people don't exercise, in all honesty, to the end of the day. A lot of people get up in the morning to go exercise, turn around and go eat, and then you ain't lost no weight. You don't know why. So there's a difference between people that are not heavy and people who are. And then you got people that are not heavy but got to deal with other, diseases and illnesses and other addictions that they have to deal with. So again, it just depends on the situation and what you're dealing with, because just because somebody's overweight does not mean they're not healthy. Just because somebody's smaller does not mean that they're healthy. That means nothing. So the next video, somebody's gonna go more in depth into this as far as intermittent fasting, and I'm gonna take myself out. I might periodically stop because it is 22 minutes long. But let's see what they got to say. Give me 1 second. Yep, here we go. So this one's a little bit longer because it's 22 minutes. So I'm going to go into this one and hear what this person got to say. One thing about me is before I say anything or do anything, I do as much research as possible before I make a decision. So periodically, if something catches my attention, I probably will stop. But like I said, I feel as though the biggest issue is we are all different and we cannot base ourselves off other people. You just can't. You're not them. You can only be you. And if you don't like yourself trying to be like somebody else, then you're not being yourself. You're being someone else. But let's continue.
Hello, health champions. Can fasting actually increase the risk of heart attacks? Well, according to a new study that was presented at a conference by the American Heart Association, there is a 20,000 people study where they found that if you eat your meals in a period of less than 8 hours per day, as opposed to the normal 12 to 16 hours, then there would be an increased risk of heart attack of 91%. Now, this would come as quite a shock to all the millions of people who are practicing intermittent fasting for the opposite reason, to actually save their heart and improve their metabolic health. So let's talk about this. Well, there are some serious limitations to this. First of all, it is not a study yet. It's an abstract. It's like a preliminary study. It has not gone through the peer review process, meaning that experts actually look at this and validate the data and that the conclusions and the reasoning is sound. Secondly, the data is self-reported, and they sent out a survey and they ask people a couple of times during a several year period, and they ask, do you remember what you ate? And even the author of the study admits that this depends on recall and therefore may be inaccurate. But perhaps the biggest problem with this is that they don't survey any other factors. They don't control, they don't ask about anything else other than the time period during which food was consumed. So there are some factors of critical importance, such as what kind of food do you eat? What sort of nutritional value does it have? But they also excluded factors such as sleep, stress, exercise, and smoking, which have huge impacts on heart health. But here's where we really need to question the validity of this study and their conclusions, because the study, the data, was collected during a period from 2003 to 2018. And then in the study, they reported as intermittent fasting. But intermittent fasting is a very new concept. Even though certain cultures have practiced it for thousands of years, the concept of regular intermittent fasting wasn't really a thing until the late 2010s, which means that it was either after or toward the very end of when this data was collected.
Let me stop there for a minute, because people in India and Dubai and the Arab community have been doing this for decades. But I want you to think about something. Think about their food compared to ours. Their food is more healthier than ours. So being that we're consuming chemicals and all of these different things, when they intermittent fast, it don't affect them the way it affects us, because our food got artificial colorings and chemicals and sugar and starch and fat and trans fats, saturated fats, sodium. It has all this different stuff that ain't even supposed to be in there. So that might be part of the problem, because our food is not exactly the most healthiest. And that might be one of the reasons why intermittent fasting don't work for Americans, is because of the type of foods that we eat. Like I said, when you do intermittent fasting, there should be certain foods that you're not supposed to eat. And like I said, now one thing I can say, like for me, today my sugar might have been kind of low. So I went and I got me some sugar and I ate it, because I had to eat I had to have sugar. But that can happen when you're doing this too. It can be where your sugar can go low. So be mindful of that. And there will be times you're gonna be craving something sweet because of the fact of your energy. Because for some people, even though they're doing intermittent fasting and they're eating healthy, if you're used to eating sweets, if you're used to having it, like I can go 2 or 3 months before I even touch something sweet. But eventually you're gonna want something sweet. Your body's gonna crave for it. And it's going to until you give it to it. So my recommendation will be, you can do strawberries, blueberries, or you can treat yourself. Nothing wrong with that. So if you want to go get, you want to get like some, maybe a small little, like I have a funnel cake in the refrigerator. So you can get you a nice little funnel cake and you can eat that. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. You can treat yourself, because you're going to at least you'll need some type of sugar. Whether you like it or not, you're going to need it. Because some people don't exactly exercise. Some people have very low energy. So it just depends on your body type. It depends on how, if you exercise, if you're someone that's active, if you're someone like me who has medical issues and right now you don't know what you can do, then you're not active. So yeah, it just depends on how you feel, because I think that's why I was in the hospital, because I almost passed out. Because again, you gotta eat. You have to eat. You gotta eat. Before you walk out the door, you gotta eat. So if you ain't eating nothing all day, don't go nowhere until you eat. Even that means you go pick up something and eat. Eat something. Don't go all day without eating and be lightheaded and then you pass out. Don't do that, because again, you can pass out. Because it's not just, it can affect you mentally, can make you disoriented. So you need to eat. So don't think that when you do, that's why I said intermittent fasting is the best time to do it is at night. That way when you get up, you can get up and you can get up, do a protein shake, do a fruit shake, vegetable shake, whatever one you want to do. It don't matter, as long as you put nutrients in your body, because that's what you're doing. You're putting nutrients in your body. You're putting healthy foods in your body. But like I said, my mom went through this, and that's how I know. It was at a game, I think it was. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry, I forgot. I keep forgetting. I'm pulling down. Okay, y'all can hear me. So my mom had just had surgery a couple months ago. She decided, no, a couple months, and we decided to go to this Comic Con thing. That's where I bought King Lion's uh comics for my son. I got them from Comic Con. Shout out to King Lion. But anyway, but while we were walking, my mom, I kept asking her, is she okay? I said, Mom, you sure you want to go? I couldn't drive. So I was like, you sure you want to go? She was like, yeah, I want to go. I want to take my son. And it's important that, she took my son. But when we got around the corner and I'm paying for his comics, I noticed my mom looked very disoriented. And I said, Mom, can you hear me? She couldn't talk. She was mumbling. I said, oh my God. I said, do you want me to call 911? I'm scared because I ain't never seen my mama like that. And I mean, she was pale. But Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? She's like, no. I said, you want me to call 911? She said, no. So luckily the lady across the street, across from the point we paid for it. So we managed to get her over and sat her down. And I said, Mama, are you okay? She couldn't talk. She kept mumbling. And this like she's dehydrated. She needs sugar. She needs salt. So they gave us the lady gave her some peanuts and gave her something sweet. If that woman wouldn't have gave my mother anything sweet, she would have been in the hospital. So understand what I'm saying. For those of y'all that keep saying you don't need sugar, yes you do. Because you have to, when you have surgery, or like if you're someone, like I said, vegetables are great, but you do need to have some type of sugar. That's why protein shakes with vanilla, chocolate, those are good because it gives you that sugar that you need when you go to the gym. So you are going to need some type of protein. Yes, so when you work out, I recommend going and making a protein shake, whether it's chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, or any kind of a fruit type of protein shake. Make it, go to the gym, work out, and then, like I said, take your water with you, but also take your protein shake. Put it, or you know how they have, or some of them they make in the actual gym. You can go in the gym and get your protein shake, but take the protein shake and the water with you. Use the water when you're working out. Take your protein shake and drink it either when you get home. Drink it when you get home. So that way you're replenishing your body from all of the workout that you do. Some people will do a protein shake before they go to the gym. I don't recommend that. Water. Don't take the protein shake before, unless you're running. Running is different. Running, I would recommend doing protein. If you're gonna be running, then yeah, you definitely gonna need a protein shake for energy. But water will be what they would take afterwards. So they may come in and after a run, they'll just drink some water, take a shower, because they ran. So you do have to put there, and they have that protein shake. And you notice they'll drink the protein shake before they even get out there and start running. And then when they get in, they may wait maybe an hour or two, maybe. And then they might eat something. They might eat like a boiled egg. They might eat, you know, just eggs. That might be it. So again, you want to eat light in the morning, especially between 5 and 9. You don't want to eat nothing too heavy. You really don't. You don't want to eat very heavy. Now lunch, you can do that. Lunch, you can have a sandwich, you can have soup, you can have whatever you want. Dinner, I don't recommend eating heavy. A lot of y'all want to eat pasta. Y'all want to eat all this heavy stuff, and you about to go to bed in a couple of hours. That's why I tell people the best time to work out, in all honesty, is at night after you eat. That's why between 12 and 6, 12 and 6, go ahead and eat. Between 7 and 8, go ahead and work out. No, between 8, yeah, between 7:30 and 8 and 9 o'clock, go work out. And then go to bed. Just go to bed. Because when you work out at night, you're able to work out all them calories you ate at the end of the day. And I see a lot of people walking after 6 o'clock, and they out there walking. And that's the reason why most people, in all honesty, they'll do 2 walks. They'll walk during the morning and then they'll walk at night. But a lot of people in my neighborhood, I see walking at night. And the reason why, or in the evening time, like between 5 and 7, they're walking. Between 5 and 7. They either walking the dogs or they're walking. So, yeah. So I recommend, doing some stretches, get on your treadmill, do some exercise before you go to bed. Take a shower, go get you a nice little smoothie with some vegetables and go to bed. Best thing for you to do. All right, let's get back to it. I'll be back in a minute.
Collected. So there was probably no one in this study, or extremely few people in the study surveyed, that thought they were actually practicing intermittent fasting on purpose. And then you have to ask yourself, if they're not consciously practicing intermittent fasting, then why are they doing this? What type of person would be eating during a shorter period of time if they're not consciously doing intermittent fasting? And my guess is that this would be something like a type A personality. Someone is very driven, very busy. They're probably too busy to eat, and that's the reason that they skip breakfast and they eat during a very short period of time. They probably skip breakfast. They may even be the type of person that just goes through the first half of the day on cigarettes and coffee, maybe the occasional donut. And when they're very short for time, chances are that they're going to frequent fast food places. So I don't know this for sure. This would be my suspicion. But the fact is, the people in the study don't know this either because they didn't ask.
I agree. The average person does not cook their own breakfast. A lot of people will go to Starbucks, they'll go to Dunkin' Donuts, they'll go to McDonald's, and they will go get breakfast. And like I said, some people, if they eat a big breakfast, is not going to want lunch. And they'll skip lunch and go to dinner. So again, the best thing to do, like I said, depends on what time you go to bed, is what time you eat. If you go to bed at 8 o'clock around this time, you're gonna get up. It's gonna be 12 hours. So then you're gonna get up, and then you might not eat. Because another thing too, we get up and go straight to work. That's nothing. A lot of us get up an hour before it's time for us to go to work, or 2 hours, depending on if you got to get up and drive or you work from home. So a lot of people are basically not having time to really eat because they have to go into work. Some people can take their stuff in there and eat while they're working. For other people, they can't. So you're just sculpting down food, which in terms is not good either, because you're not thoroughly swallowing your food the way that you're supposed to. So that could be another thing that could be an issue. So you're not having time. 8 hours a day, you are in an office. 8 hours a day, you're on a computer. 8 hours a day, you're out there in the street somewhere, or you're in a factory. So you don't really have time to go outside and go get sunlight. You don't really have time to really get up. And then on the weekends, for most of us, all we want to do is sleep the whole weekend. We don't want to go nowhere. We just want to sleep. Why? Because we tired. Especially if you work 10-hour shifts and you off on Friday. And I used to work 10-hour shifts. And they ain't no joke. 10-hour shifts are not a joke. I'm telling you, they're not. But you off on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Memorial weekend, you got actually a 4-day weekend. You literally have a 4-day weekend. But like I said, it it's not easy. And then, like I said, you get off at, like, say if it's at, for example, your training's from 9:30 to 6, then guess what? You don't even have time. And then you only have a 30-minute break, 30-minute lunch. You don't even have time to really fix anything. So sometimes you may have to order and have them to deliver it by the time you get ready to, you can schedule for them to drop it off. But still, it don't make a difference. It's still, you're getting takeout food. You're not eating healthy food, you're eating takeout food. So that's part of the problem as well. It's what you're eating during your fasting. It's not so much the intermittent fasting, it's what you're eating and how it's impacting your body. But yes, you do need to eat. You do need to eat at least twice a day. And you might, like I said, you might have, in the morning, you might have an omelet, which is protein. And you might eat it with just mushrooms and spinach, tomatoes, onions. You might add a few other things in there. You might add some turkey, some chicken, whatever. And you have your omelet. And then in the evening time, you might have a soup and a salad. You might have a soup and a sandwich. You might have baked chicken. Not fried chicken, baked chicken. So again, it depends on what you eat. So if you eat baked chicken is actually better for you than fried chicken. So if you're somebody like myself who used to eat sushi, honey, sushi was my dinner. I love sushi. I used to love sushi. Can't eat it no more. But I would just eat. I was more so pescatarian. I love seafood. I eat seafood all day, every day. I love seafood, but I can't eat it no more. But when I did, that's all I ate: seafood, fish, shrimp, lobster. That's all I ate, and maybe some mashed potatoes, maybe some fries. So again, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of starch. Nothing wrong with it, because because when you work out, you're gonna need some type of carbs anyway. So when you work out, you really do want to have carbs before you work out. So that's why I said in the evening time, when you work out in the evening time, you have carbs, you work off them carbs, and you just worked off everything you ate. In the morning, you're going to the bathroom and cleansing yourself everything that you ate. Now you guys got to go and work off everything that you ate. And other than that, you're good. So, like I said, that's what I would recommend personally. But let's get back into it.
Now, what's really disturbing to me is the fact that this study isn't even published, and yet the American Heart Association jumps on it.
The journey to becoming a University of Phoenix student is easier than you might think. There's no application fee, no SAT or GMAT.
And then, as a result of the authority of the American Heart Association, now, of course, all the media like NBC News are going to cover it, Washington Post, US News and World Report, USA Today, and New York Times. I think there were about 6,000 different instances that had restated this study. And then, of course, all the people writing for these news media, they're not health experts. They are not versed in critically evaluating or assessing such a report. No, they just want to create some sensationalism and tell everybody about the dangers of intermittent fasting. So now millions and millions of people who had their hope in getting healthy from intermittent fasting now get really scared. What are you supposed to believe? And what's also disturbing to me is that, to me, it seems like the American Heart Association is not anchored in science, because there is no foundation in physiology. There's no way to open up a physiology textbook and read something that makes sense to why this study would have that particular outcome. And if it doesn't match physiology, then it should be the very last study that they bring out prematurely.
I'm gonna tell y'all what I. No, I'm gonna wait to the end. Let me go out. I'm gonna wait to the end. I'm gonna tell y'all what I really think is going on, because I think I have figured it out. I think I know why this is happening, and when I express why, I think it's gonna shock people. But hold on, I'm gonna go back out. I'm gonna go ahead and let this finish, and then I'm gonna tell you what I think.
Not the very first one, but yet they jump at the chance to get this information out there. It's as if they're just waiting for an opportunity to silence the voices of people who do things differently than mainstream medicine. And whenever there's a movement that threatens the American Heart Association and the establishment because people can get healthy on their own, then of course that's not good news for the American Heart Association or anyone in that establishment. Because most of these organizations and most teaching hospitals and research universities, they depend on funding. And a lot of that will come from pharma, who depends on a system where they can distribute their medication. So we always have to ask ourselves, why did they jump so quickly on this information? And we have to ask ourselves, who is involved who have anything to gain or lose by this information? And unfortunately, what's so disturbing is that a lot of times it comes down to politics and power and finances rather than patient health. Another reason they shouldn't jump on the premature study is that there is now abundant evidence in just a few years about the power of intermittent fasting, on how if you eat real food and you time restrict your eating, then it will very reliably and very consistently improve all markers of metabolic disease that are related to cardiovascular disease. And when I say all markers, I don't mean every single marker in every single person every single time. I mean that on a study scale that we consistently improve these markers for the majority of people. But that is also why you don't ever want to trust anybody's opinion explicitly. Not mine, not the American Heart Association, because everyone can be different. So therefore, what you need to do is you need to study health, not just read lists off of the internet. You want to watch some videos that will actually teach you mechanisms to help you understand the body and some of the basic mechanisms in the body until you can see the information on the internet come together. When does it make sense? When does the information confirm other information? When do you see the trend and the tendency? And then you want to do your own study with an N of 1. And that means that the sample size is one person, you. And normally, in terms of research, that's a joke, because that means if you only have one person, then it's not statistically significant. But when you do your own study on yourself, it's the most significant because you are learning about you. And then you want to measure your actual risk markers, the real markers for heart disease, the risk factors. And I'm going to share those with you in just a second. Then, of course, you do something, you change something. So you limit your feeding to 6 to 8 hours a day. And it's probably not absolutely necessary that you change what you eat so much, even though I would strongly recommend it, because your chances, the probability of getting good results are going to go up dramatically if you start eating real food, which means you cut back on sugar and soda and ice cream and cookies and all the packaged foods that is basically primarily made up of sugar and flour and seed oil. And if you do that, if you start eating real food, you will automatically cut out at least half of your carbohydrates, maybe more. And you don't have to go into ketosis or go extremely low carb for any of this to work. The fasting works in itself, but your chances are going to go up if you eat real food. And then you keep that up for 3 months, and then you run those blood tests again to reassess all those markers. And what is it that you're going to measure? What are the real risk markers for heart disease? Well, they fall in 2 categories: things that measure insulin resistance and things that measure inflammation and oxidative stress. So the first few markers are glucose, A1C, and insulin. Glucose is how much blood sugar you have in any given moment. A1C is the average glucose over a 3 to 4 month period of time. And insulin is the hormone that controls glucose. So when your glucose goes up, your insulin goes up correspondingly to bring the glucose down. But when you become insulin resistant, then it takes more and more and more and more and more insulin to keep the glucose down. So now there's something called HOMA-IR. And what you do now is you multiply the glucose by the insulin, and you divide by 405 if you measure glucose in milligrams per deciliter. If you measure in millimoles, now you divide by 22.5. And the result is a number called HOMA-IR, Homeostatic Model Assessment of Insulin Resistance. And this would be the strongest indicator there is of your risk of heart disease, because by far the strongest correlation to heart disease is type 2 diabetes, and this is the best marker to assess your risk or your tendency of type 2 diabetes. Some other strong indicators of insulin resistance would be your triglycerides, how much fat is floating in your blood. Because if you're insulin resistant, it stays in the blood for a long time. If you're insulin sensitive, your cells will absorb it and use it. Waist size is another strong indicator, because once you get insulin resistance, you get fatty infiltration of the liver and your abdominal cavity, and your belly grows. Another strong indicator is hypertension or high blood pressure, which is also very strongly associated with insulin resistance. Measuring inflammation and oxidative stress is not quite as straightforward, but we have some really good indicators. And HDL and LDL cholesterol will give us a good indication. And it's not about how many milligrams you have of each, but it's the ratio. Because when the ratio goes down, meaning there's less HDL in relation to LDL, that tends to indicate inflammation. We also want to look at the size of the LDL particles. And you have to run a test called an NMR test to get this information, but it's well worth it because you're assessing the actual risk factors. And what you're looking for on the test is to have what we call large and fluffy LDL particles, because a lot of inflammation and oxidative stress will shrink and increase the density. So if you have small, dense LDL particles, then that is a strong risk factor for heart disease. And one more factor we can measure is called high sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is a general inflammatory marker. Now, these are not the only markers, but they are the main ones. And if you really want to dig into this and start understanding your blood work in terms of how the body works, I created a blood work course, and I'll put a link down below for that. And we can also get you some discounted blood work where we measure all of these factors plus a whole lot more. But the biggest problem in making change is that there is so much attachment to the status quo. There's so many people, so much money invested in keeping things the same.
That part right there, they don't want change. Anything that has nothing to do with medication, anything that does not have anything to do with the processed food that they selling, is why this stuff is coming up. Now that people are eating more healthier, now that people are leaving the country that have allergies, going to new countries and don't have allergies at all. They get there and can eat seafood and everything and not have a bit more of an issue. There was somebody that was showing in Vietnam, Thailand. That's what it was, Thailand. Their grocery store. They have seeds in their fruit. They got seeds in their fruit. I don't know when's the last time I seen seeds in the fruit here in the United States. So because of the fact that people are now eating healthier, now people now are shopping at the Japanese stores and the Hispanic stores, and people are going more organic. And do y'all know y'all get your organic stuff come from France? It don't even come from the United States. It come from France. The soil in the United States is not healthy enough to basically even grow organic food or make it. So they get it from France and have it shipped here. A lot of y'all didn't know that. But yeah, that's what that is. Because these people are losing money. If people can learn how to heal themselves, pharmaceutical companies will lose billions of dollars. If people stop eating processed foods, you're not getting sick. So if people actually grew their own food, they even saying now it's against the law to go to a farmer's house and get vegetables. It's against the law for you to go to a farmer. Y'all, during COVID, I lied to you not. If you only knew how much food farmers had to burn, how much fruits and vegetables they had to burn, because you remember when COVID hit, they had no way of getting their vegetables to the store. Y'all remember that? Yeah. People could have went to the godforsaken farmers and went and bought their stuff. But yeah, they couldn't even get to the farmers market because COVID was that bad. So a lot of people like going to farmers markets and get their vegetables. They go straight to the farmers market. A lot of people go to the butchers and go get their meat. So again, people are not really shopping in the stores no more. People are going to these mom and pop places and getting their stuff. But yeah, that's what it is. They make too much money. And now that people are starting to get away from processed foods, y'all, you'll be amazed how many people do not be in the processed section no more. You will be amazed. Don't get me wrong, people still eat chicken patties, chicken nuggets. They still eat the stuff. But now people are looking at the back of the box, they're looking at the ingredients, and they're like, no, I ain't buying this for my kids. A lot of people now are making their own dishes, like Nara. And y'all sat there and talked about that woman, not understanding that woman is doing something a lot of y'all need to be doing. You need to start making your own dishes for your own kids. That way they can't say you making your kids sick. And I'm very sure her kids are very healthy because she makes everything from bread. She makes everything from scratch. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I actually can if I really want to. And I need to start doing that. I'm about to make me some cookies. I'm making me this weekend. I'm making tacos. I'm making tacos, and then I'm making a. I got some nacho cheese, and I'm gonna take some of that meat from the tacos, and I'm gonna make me a dip. And I did she get my chips? Probably they might be up there, but yeah. I got me. I'm gonna have to get some chips because I'm about to make my own dip. So I got a dip thing where I can put chocolate covered strawberries and make all kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm about to make my own dip. I am. I'm making a dip with cheese, the nacho cheese, and then I'm putting a little bit of regular cheese in it. But then again, I don't know for sure. And then I'm gonna add some salsa into it and make my own cheese, my own dip, and eat that with some tacos and be good. So like I said, I've been making stuff at home because like I said, it's the safest thing to do is just cook for yourself. Cause like I said, cooking's not that hard. All it is, you just gotta pay attention. All it is with cooking is if you prep the night before or like I gotta cut up some onion, not some onions, but some mushrooms. I gotta cut them up before they go bad and use them. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm about to cut them up tomorrow night. I'm gonna cut them up. So let's continue what he has to say.
So when something like low carb or intermittent fasting becomes popular because hundreds of thousands, millions of people see improvement, they get healthy, they make changes that they've never been able to do before, that threatens this status quo. So now people desperately cling to their old beliefs and they say, well, we admit that you can reverse diabetes. We admit that you can lose weight. We admit that it's really good for reducing visceral fat, but we don't know the long-term effects. That's kind of their fallback that will save the day for them in any situation. But that is why it's so important we understand the real risk factors, because if you measure those and they get better, then you get healthier. And this is both short-term and long-term. Because so often what they're saying, when they say we don't know the long-term effects, what they're saying is, well, it might be good for you short-term, but it's probably dangerous long-term. And that's not how it works if we address and improve the real risk factors. And the exception is if we use some chemical, some medication to suppress body physiology. If we just bring in things that the body wants naturally and we let the body do its thing and the body uses its infinite intelligence to achieve homeostasis, to regulate all these thousands of variables to find that best balance, now this holds true. When you improve the markers, you are getting healthier. But if we're not allowing homeostasis to do its thing, if we introduce chemicals that interfere, that suppress certain markers, that block what the body is trying to do, now we're not allowing this balance. And now we're creating a stress load and a toxicity on the body. And this is probably why a lot of people have such a hard time understanding this, because we're trained in the idea that medication will make us healthy. And medication can't do that. Medication is not always a bad thing, but it cannot restore the thing that isn't working.
That's true. My blood pressure went down because not because of the medication. The medication just helps me to maintain it. But yeah, medication doesn't do nothing. It's like putting a band-aid on an infected wound and you don't do nothing to treat it. All it does is temporarily soothe the situation, but it doesn't heal it. Just like pain, medication does not heal your pain. It just stops it in that area. But then the pain ain't gonna do nothing but move somewhere else. It's gonna find a place to host until you deal with all of it. You know how much medication you got to deal with when it comes to pain? Because sometimes you can have right now I have pain in my legs, like right now because of my legs. So because I have this on my legs. But like I said, the pain don't do nothing but move. It's just like a Charlie horse. You have a Charlie horse one day in your leg, and next thing you have one in your back. But if you don't do nothing to make it better, it's not gonna get no better. That's why natural herbs and holistic healing is the best way to go. That's why spiritual healing is the best way to go. So that's the best thing to do. Because even when you go to the bathroom, you're gonna have. I'm tell you why you have carnal tunnel. When you're trying to go to the bathroom, you're trying to wipe yourself. You can't wipe yourself because you can't even reach back there. They don't make toilets where it's easy for you to be able to go to the bathroom to wipe yourself. That's how crazy it is. But yeah, that's pretty much how that works. But let's continue because it ain't number a couple more minutes.
All disease is because of something that isn't working right. And if we can address the root cause, if there's enough healthy tissue and function in the body that we can support it and bring back that function, now we get healthy. If we don't have enough balance, enough tissue, there is sometimes a good idea to use medication, but it's only going to control something at the expense of something else. It will not restore the original function. So here is, in my opinion, the real risk factors and how important they are. So we have insulin resistance, then we have gut health and other sources of inflammation like leaky gut and autoimmunity and food allergies and so forth. Then we have LDL particle health. Are they large and fluffy, or are they small and dense and damaged by inflammation and oxidative stress? And then we have total cholesterol, as in measured by milligrams per deciliter or millimoles per liter. And here is my belief. This is my opinion. I don't have any data to support these specific numbers, and I just kind of grab them to give you an idea of how I feel about this. So I think insulin resistance is by far the strongest correlation, the strongest risk factor for heart disease. It probably accounts for about 80% of that weighted importance. And then I think that gut health and other sources of inflammation probably account for another 10%. I think the LDL particle health particle size is another 9% or so. But keep in mind that most of the LDL, again, has to do with insulin resistance and other sources of inflammation. So this is not really an independent risk factor. It's dependent on these two other factors. And then maybe total cholesterol accounts for maybe 1%. But this is only, in my opinion, for people with very, very large numbers. I don't think a number of 300 in itself is a risk factor if everything else looks good. I think maybe, and I'm saying that because I don't know, if your cholesterol gets up to 6, 7, 800, then you have some severe metabolic imbalance, some genetic imbalance that can probably predispose you. But for most people, that is not going to be a factor. So this stuff can get really confusing when you learn something and you believe it, and then they publish a study or they talk about a study like this that contradicts everything that you believe. So your proof is going to come from your results and your understanding. So if you go through and you do your own trial study on yourself, a 3-month trial, pre and post blood work, then the question is, what happened? That's going to be your proof. So if there is no significant changes in most of these variables, then chances are that your issue is a little bit more complex. It's going to be something like autoimmunity or inflammation, or maybe you have a chronic infection or some emotional trauma. The variables are unfortunately pretty endless. It could also be that you get your test results back, you've gone through these changes, and all or most of your markers are worse. And if that's the case, then intermittent fasting is probably dangerous for you. It's something you should stay away from. But if that happens, please contact me and report to me on that, because I'd love to know what planet you're from. Well, kidding aside, we never want to say never. So it is possible that it could happen, because there's billions of people on the planet. There's probably a handful that would have some extreme, inexplicable reaction. But it's going to be so rare that it is extremely unlikely that would happen. What's much more likely, that I would say is probably an account for more than 90% of people, is that you would see all or most of your markers improve. If you haven't done intermittent fasting or low carb or some healthy living already for a period of time, if you're just kind of new to this and you go through this process, then I would say that all or most of your markers are probably going to show some positive change. And then if that's the case, then intermittent fasting, like for most people, if you can use it to reduce insulin resistance, to improve metabolic health, that is the best thing that you could do to improve your health, to reduce the risk of heart disease, and save your life. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love that one. And if you truly
I keep forgetting I'm doing two things at one time. So what people need to understand, that this is not just about losing weight. There could be psychological issues, mental issues, emotional issues, spiritual issues. It could be the people you associate with. It could be stress. It could be all kinds of things that's causing you to gain weight. It could be fibroids, thyroids, hernias. It could be everything from digestive issue, you not going to the bathroom like you're supposed to. Your intestines has a bunch of stuff that you haven't digested, that's not digestible, that cannot go down. It could be the fact that you now don't have a gallbladder. So I need y'all to understand, you are what you consume. You are what you put into your system. And what works for one person does not work for everybody. So this is my recommendation. I'm doing it now. I have not eaten since probably about 5 o'clock, maybe 5:30. Last thing I ate. I ain't gonna eat nothing else before I go to bed. Now my body may say I'm hungry, still ain't gonna eat nothing. Why? Because I ate twice today. I had eggs, I had a scrambled omelet today, and then I had I had the pasta I made. And the rest of it going in the garbage disposal, because I gotta make something else. I gotta figure what I'm gonna make for dinner tomorrow. So I need people to understand that you are what you consume. It's not about your calories. It's about what you're eating and the ingredients that's in your food. It is about carbs. It is about sugar. It is about starch. It is about salt intake. It's about all of that. So you're looking past everything except what's truly important. So the last video I'm gonna do before I go to bed is Dr. Ken Berry, and he's gonna also talk about it as well. So like I said, I like to get information from everybody before I just make a decision. And this is the last video I'm gonna say, but like I said, they losing money. I'm telling you, these businesses are losing a lot of money because people are living a holistic life. People want longevity. They want to live longer. Can't live longer if you eating all these things that are bad for you. How in the world are you supposed to live longer when you eating the wrong things you shouldn't be eating? So let's get into what he has to say about this particular subject. And then I'm going to close it out and I'm going to bed by now.
And everyone else on the planet has seen the headlines lately that intermittent fasting might be very bad for your heart. It might increase your risk of heart attack or even heart death. Virtually every mainstream media outlet in the country has covered this. The New York Times says, is intermittent fasting bad for your heart? Here's what we know. USA Today says, we were surprised intermittent fasting flagged as a serious health risk. And then a Fox News affiliate says intermittent fasting may actually be dangerous for your heart. New research finds. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician. Let's look into this issue. And I'm going to tell you a really weird finding at the end of this video that most people aren't talking about when they talk about this. And so stay tuned till the end. So the first thing you need to know is this is not actually a study yet. This was a poster presentation at an American Heart Association event. It has not been peer reviewed. It has not been published anywhere. So to call it a study, first of all, is disingenuous, because I think most people would understand that the definition of a study that doctors or dietitians or the American Heart Association is about to talk about, it should be a peer-reviewed and published study. It shouldn't be a preliminary study, a poster presentation that hasn't been in any way looked at or torn apart to see if it's even worthy of discussion. And so my current opinion is this is not even worthy of discussion. But unlike me, every mainstream media outlet, every news outlet, every website thought that this was definitely fodder that needed to be talked about in depth and used to scare people. And I'll get to why they all believe that. Typically, I yell at mainstream media because they blow things out of proportion to get clicks. But in this case, they did not do that. And I'm going to explain why in just a few minutes. So this study was based on NHANES data, which was collected between 2003 up to 2014, 2018, depending. So right off the bat, if you were alive and an adult in 2003, you remember nobody was talking about intermittent fasting then. It was not a thing at all. What they did was they dug back into the NHANES data set, back to a time period where Jason Fung was not a household word. Nobody was talking about doing longer fasts or intermittent fasting. Now, it's absolutely true that humans as a species have been practicing fasting, long fasts, for thousands and thousands of years. Every major religion had a long fast that you did. It wasn't considered dangerous. It was considered just something that all adults who weren't pregnant, who weren't breastfeeding, you just did that. Before that, there's anthropological research that humans fasted for days, for many, many, many long periods of time over the course of their life, and not by choice perhaps, but because they didn't make a successful kill. And so there was nothing to eat. So you didn't just lay down and die. You fasted and tried to figure out where your air was so that you could be successful with the next hunt. The way all the data was collected in the NHANES was that they would do food frequency questionnaire tests with the participants. And this is basically a multiple choice guess test. And in this data set that they're talking about in this unpublished, unpeer reviewed study was they did 2 food frequency questionnaires that covered a year. And so they did that twice in the entire NHANES data set. People were asked to recall what they had eaten up to a year before the multiple guess test was administered. And then they used that as meaningful, reliable data to then crunch these numbers and come up with the results of this poster presentation that's unpeer reviewed. So what this poster presentation found was no increase in all-cause mortality whatsoever, regardless of how long people fasted. And keep in mind, people back then weren't doing 16/8s, and they weren't doing 24 and 22/2 and 48-hour fasts and rolling 24s and rolling 48s. Nobody was doing that back in 2003, 4, 5. What they basically collected was people who got up and had a cup of coffee and a cigarette and skipped breakfast. That's the people. Or somebody who was so poor they couldn't afford breakfast, or somebody who was so stressed out because of a recent loss, or they were working 2 or 3 jobs, they didn't have time for breakfast, or they were so depressed that they just didn't eat breakfast. And so that's where and so for those people, and now I'm sure they're going to claim that they adjusted for that, but I have a huge question. How do you adjust for that? How do you tease out all those people versus people who are just doing a 16-8. I don't think you can. But what they found was a hazard ratio of cardiovascular death of 1.91.
Thinking I'm gonna start cutting carbs. I need to drop my belly fat.
If you want to drop this
percent. Relative risk wise, that's a 91% increase in cardiovascular death in the people who were fasting for 16 or more hours a day. First of all, if you don't know much about epidemiology or observational research, every other research discipline, except for nutrition, human nutrition actually, even in bovine and porcine nutrition, if something comes back with a hazard ratio of under 2, so in this case 1.91%, it's considered static. It's considered background noise. It's not considered even a finding that you would publish. This goes for all of the hard sciences. And then veterinary nutrition, they could care less about a hazard ratio of 1.91. Only in human nutrition is this considered, OMG, we've got to talk about this. Definitely when this is peer reviewed and published, if it ever is, you will see all these flaws in methodology that you see in most other nutrition research. But there's a problem here, because where did all the news media, where did they get this story from? This was a poster presentation. Now, don't tell me that Fox News and New York Times and CNN were all at the AHA's conference, diligently taking notes when they presented this poster of unpeer-reviewed, unpublished research. This had to come from somewhere. Where did it come from? Here's where it came from a press release from the American Heart Association. Time-restricted eating may raise cardiovascular death risk in the long term. Now, here's my question. Of all the things you would expect that the American Heart Association would not issue a press release about something that's not peer-reviewed, not published. It's literally a poster presentation. It may never be published. It may go through peer review and be changed significantly. Why did the American Heart Association go to the trouble of putting out this press release? Because, I mean, you can't blame Fox News or New York Times or any of the other outlets for publishing this. It was a press release from the AHA. Now, there are those with a conspiratorial mind who are saying, well, I'll bet you that intermittent fasting is becoming so popular that it's cutting into the profits of big food and big pharma, both of whom give the American Heart Association millions of dollars a year in donations. I bet that's what it is. Now, more nuanced, thoughtful people are saying, I literally have no idea why they thought this was worthy of a press release. The hazard ratio is less than 2. This is based on observational data, very infrequently administered food frequency questionnaire, multiple guest tests, which have been shown time and again to be notoriously unreliable. The data came from a time period in Haynes research when nobody was talking about doing 16-8 or 22-hour fast or 20 or 2-day fast. That was not popular then. Nobody was doing that on purpose back then. Only people who were sick, who had lost their appetite due to stress, due to depression, due to nicotine overdose every morning, due to drug use every morning. That's the only people who would have been fasting for 16 or more hours a day back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. It wasn't a thing. I think the question we should all be asking, and I think the question that we should be asking the American Heart Association on Twitter, X, on their YouTube videos, anywhere you can ask the question is, why, of all the things you could have issued a press release about, why this? Why is fasting so high up on the American Heart Association's radar? Did they feel it was worthy to pay somebody to write this press release and then release it to the mainstream media? In this case, I have no problem with what the mainstream media did. This is not their fault. This came straight from the American Heart Association. You would almost think that CNN or Fox News or New York Times, they would be remiss if they didn't publish this, because most of them don't have science editors anymore. They don't have the time or the money or the expertise to dig into this. They just blindly trusted the American Heart Association, which is exactly what millions of other people all around the world do. I think this is a wake-up call to you and to mainstream media and everybody else out there all across the world. It's time to stop blindly trusting the American Heart Association if they don't have any better sense than to release something like this that has not been vetted, has not been peer reviewed, hasn't even been published. Who knows? Maybe this will be completely destroyed in the peer review process. That literally could happen. It does happen very often to research. Once the reviewers read it, they're like, this is riddled with errors. You need to rewrite this whole thing. You need to go back to the drawing board. That happens with non-peer reviewed, non-published research. How does the American Heart Association, how do they know this is even going to pass the peer review process? How do they know it's even going to get published in its present form? Well, they shouldn't, but if they do somehow, then that's weird. But if they don't, this is the truly weird thing, that they effectively put their reputation on the line by issuing this press release for this unpeer-reviewed, unpublished poster presentation. I find that highly worrisome. It needs to be a wake-up call. We all need to go. The next time the American Heart Association issues a press release about something, I think the vast majority of mainstream media, of academic experts, of doctors and health care providers and dietitians are going to go, I'm going to hold off on recommending this. I'm going to hold off on publishing this, because remember that intermittent fasting thing that didn't pan out? Where did that come from? I don't know. So I want you to tell me in the comments, please, what do you make of this? Is it that big food and big pharma's profits are suffering, therefore the American Heart Association is carrying their water? Do you think that's what it is? Or do you think that the American Heart Association is so wedded to highly processed food and to pharmaceutical intervention that they don't want people to take active steps to improve their health? Or do you truly think that fasting for more than 16 hours a day, which humans have been doing for millions of years, every major religion advocated some form of longer fast, do you think that it truly is increases your risk of heart death, cardiac events? Even though there was no change in the all-cause mortality in the study, they really wanted to put this fear into people. And this is a global story. The India Times, all of the UK papers, all of the EU papers, everybody covered this because the American Heart Association currently is highly respected. But I think that may change after this. Please tell me why you think that they would issue a press release about something as inconsequential, as unproven, as unpeer-reviewed as this. What is their motive? What's their intent? What do you think they want the message to be to the hundreds of millions of people who read the news stories about this press release that the American Heart Association put out themselves? And also, I want to let you know that if you are trying to do longer fasts, I don't think that it's dangerous. I think it's actually one of the most healthy things you can do. And if you need support with your fasting, if you need support with a low-carb diet, then please consider joining our private community, phdhealth.community. There's a link down in the show notes. We'd love to see you in there. This is Dr. Berry. I'll see you next time.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just stop.
I am a primary care physician. I'm frustrated.
Okay. Now, let me say this. Let me go ahead and unshare my screen. Let me say this. If processed foods lose money, if pharmaceutical companies lose money, if y'all don't go out to eat no more and you decide to cook at home, who gonna basically make money? The only ones that will make money would be people that, as far as clothes, shoes, underwear, Walmart, Food Lion, Winn-Dixie, Kroger's, Fresh Market, Whole Foods. They'll make all the money. Sam's, BJ's, all these restaurants will go out of business if people stop buying fast food. If people stop buying fast food, if people stop going to Starbucks, you'll be amazed how things will change. You'll be absolutely amazed. So, my thoughts on it is, the reason they're saying it is because people are getting into holistic living. People are getting into holistic medications. Holistic herbs and stuff like that. People are healing themselves naturally between sea moss and turmeric and ginger and rosemary. You can make a digestive tea out of those ingredients. You can get an onion, spinach, put it in a blender and blend it. Just take off the stems, cut the stems off, put the spinach in there, and make you a godforsaken smoothie. So but is it good for fresh fruit to do that? No. They're saying it's not good to do fresh fruits and vegetables because they lose their nutrients when you juice them. I recommend that you do some research on that. But like I said, they don't want y'all to basically go into just eating vegetables and fruit and not eating meat. Because like I said, if people stop eating fast food, do you know how much money they're going to lose? And that's why they're saying all this nonsense. They want people, first it's about health and wellness. No, it ain't about health and wellness. It's about y'all making money. And you don't care whether we live or die. Because like I said, how is it that in the beginning of time, all the people lived in 900 something years, and yet we can't even live to 50? Something ain't right. Something ain't right. But like I said, whatever you do as far as intermittent fasting, do it to your own due diligence. Do what works for you. But my recommendation, I'll say it again, do your intermittent fasting at night. Don't do it during the day. Do it at night. Because again, what'll happen is if you eat when you wake up, just eat a light breakfast. And then if you don't want to eat nothing else, like you may say, okay, I may go and have a salad. I might have soup and salad, a grilled sandwich. That'd be it. You might have waffles. Cool. You can do that. But like I said, them carbs, like I said, I try to be low on carbs. Like um I gotta get some meats and stuff. Man, I'm scared to go to the store even get meats because I'm scared that it's gonna have that lab meat. So just be mindful of that. Be careful of that. But I just wanted to come on here and do this particular video because when I saw this, it got my attention, and a lot of y'all are about intermittent fasting. A lot of y'all are about trying to find ways to be healthy as far as weight. But it's not just about somebody being overweight as far as being healthy. There are people that are skinny that also have health issues. Smoking, drinking, drugs, alcohol, codependency, depression, anxiety, and go on and on and on. So there are some things that are not based upon weight. So again, there are some things that are based upon weight and there's some things that are not. And can be both. So just because somebody overweight does not mean they're not healthy, because some people are overweight and very active and very moving around. They just have a disorder that keeps them as far as losing weight. So it could be anything. Y'all don't know these people's story to sit there and talk about it. So that being said, y'all, I am about to go to bed. There's nothing. Sleep. You're going to need a good 8 hours sleep. I don't care what nobody tell you. You need 8 hours sleep. You don't get 8 hours sleep, I'm telling you, it will catch up with you. It's like catching up with me now. So I'm going to bed early. So I'm going to bed to get some sleep. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there's no me. I'd be nothing without y'all. Thank y'all for joining me for this episode. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications of my videos. And if y'all are interested in one-on-one coaching, you can go to self.discovery.2.a.new.u@gmail.com. I forgot to put it in the description box, but I'll put it in the description box. For y'all on TikTok, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm still doing the Beyonce thing on Friday. I promise I am. Just not doing it today. So that being said, I'm off to bed. So I love all of y'all. I'm going to go some sleep and mind my business. I hope all of y'all learn something from this. Like I said, as a recovery life coach, this is my job, to give y'all information. And what you choose to do with it is on you. Do what works for you. You're an individual. I'm just giving you recommendations. That's it. All I can do is lead you to water, but I can't make you drink. All I can do is guide you to whatever it is that God tell me that you need to go to. But the question is, do you want to go? Can't make that decision for you. But also, if not just about one-on-one coaching, but also if those of y'all on TikTok, for those of y'all on here, if y'all have a story to tell, if you need any help when it comes to any information about any diseases or illnesses or if you're going through something, you just want to talk and you just want some prayer, or you need advice on something, if it's something that you don't mind me sharing, I'm not gonna say your name, but if you're someone that has a story that y'all want to tell and you want to have me put it out there, if you want to go on my podcast, y'all can DM me and TikTok, and y'all can email me, and I'll bring you on my podcast. Anybody that can help people when it comes to health and wellness, I'm welcoming to you. I will give you the platform to do so. So, with that being said, that's it. I do one-on-one coaching. I'm eventually gonna be doing group coaching eventually, cause I got some courses I'm trying to build. Just gotta figure out where I'm gonna put them at. But anyway, I got scammed out of some money, but that's one other conversation. So that being said, I am off the bed. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all later. Have a very good evening. Have a very beautiful night, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Hold on, y'all. Let me read this comment right quick. I didn't read the comment. It says, have you tried microdosing? It involves taking natural substance like mushrooms, that not to trip, but to help improve mental health, self-esteem. Also gives relief for issues like BPD, panic attacks, chronic pain, bipolar, autism, schizophrenia, ADHD, PTSD. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, 5 mild depression, insomnia, anxiety, other mental disorders. Wula Spores on Instagram gives the best guidance. Okay, I'm gonna have to do that. I'm just now seeing your message, but yeah, I might have to do that. So for the person, Mr. Steve Edwards, I did read your message, and that's not a bad idea. I'm gonna look into mushrooms. I'm looking at all of that. Like I said, I'm gonna give y'all some very good tips on what will help when it comes to not only weight loss but also overall health and wellness. Because like I said, it's not just about your weight. It's not just about your external health. It's also about your internal health, your financial health, your spiritual, mental, psychological, internal, and external health, as well as financial. Because if your financials ain't in order, you're definitely not going to be healthy. So we're also going to talk about the importance of why, when it comes down to being rich, why having money is so important. And it has nothing to do with the reasons y'all think money is a big thing. No, money has a lot to do with your health and wellness. So, that being said, I'm out of here. Have a good night, y'all. I'm off to bed. And I have made it by 9:30. Bye, y'all.